I realize more and more that I am way better at helping people solve their problems than I am actually helping myself solve any problems I have. And I think that's probably pretty common. But I just wonder why it's so hard to apply things you can so easily tell somebody else to the shit that you're actually going through. Like, I feel like I've always been a person where I embrace people coming to me with needs or maybe for advice. Not that I know what I'm talking about, but I at least I enjoy being in the role of like counsel. Maybe because I'm a nerd, like I'd love to be part of like the Jedi Council or something. But when it comes to my actual own shit, I feel helpless sometimes. But I guess that's why it's important to have like a group of people you trust enough to be like, hey, shit's not good, and I need you to pretend you know how to solve it, even though I know your life is also in shambles. I think I keep for you ever have a thing where like you keep seeing a certain thing or a certain quote or theme or fucking picture, whatever it is, you keep seeing it over and over again over a short period of time. I keep seeing that quote that's like, um, this is like this is my first time through life. My mom just said it to me the other day, like, this is my first time through life, this is my first time trying life. And I guess that's why we still cling to some sort of sense of community. Even people who feel like they're more solitary or don't feel like they have a ton of people to go to, we all end up coming back to wanting connection and wanting people around. And I think part of the reason is because it's all of our first time through life and none of us know what the fuck is going on. But I feel like over and over again in my life, I fall into the role for people of like, you need some advice or they just need to vent and maybe like run things by me. I appreciate. I feel like I'm like stroking my own ego. I don't mean to do that. That I am that source for a lot of people, but also I very much need that source myself a lot of times because I feel helpless sometimes. Not like I don't like for example. Here's an example. I want to start taking my career more seriously now that it's like technically full time. I'm a full time producer, musician, whatever, all that shit. And I don't get money or business, and I know that's like people don't like to admit that. And if you do get it, more power to you. Congratulations. It's super super important and good for you. But I feel like a lot of people of our generation, that just wasn't something that was taught to us, and it's something that you have to figure out on your own. And plenty of people do, but plenty of people just find it so overwhelming, and that's the boat I'm not overwhelmed right now, which is great, but I definitely have been at times where it's like I don't know what the fucking interest rate is. I don't know how to get health insurance as like an independent person, not part of like some fucking corporation or something like that. Like, I have no clue what the fuck is going on. Um, but yet still, people come to me sometimes and are like, "What do you think about?" I'm good like existentially. I'm good like you know about your place in the universe and like being a content person and like going through life and trying to be happy, but not that other stuff. I need guidance and I need help. And luckily, I have some people that have been helping me along the way with that stuff. But it's just an interesting observation I keep going back to this week that everyone feels sometimes like everyone feels overwhelmed with the shit they're dealing with. Some people more often than others. And yet we all still, when someone tells us an issue similar to the one we're dealing with, it seems so clear, kind of, or easy, not easy, but it seems more obvious the solution. But when it comes to us actually dealing with similar stuff in our own lives, there's a disconnect. There's some sort of like wires that are crossed that seems like you listen to someone else's problems and you're like, oh, you just have to do these three things. But then if you really think, it's like, well, I haven't done any of those three things. And if I did, my life would also be better. I don't know. It's like, I guess it's like watching a movie and with the dramatic irony of like knowing, oh, the main character is getting himself into trouble. And if he just did these three things, he would be better off. Maybe that's kind of how that's where the disconnect is in real life too, where like you see another person going through things and you're like, oh, it's obvious if they just did this stuff, then their life would be a lot better. but we can't actually do it for ourselves. At least me. Maybe I'm projecting. It's very possible. Maybe I'm nuts and I'm the only one that goes through that, but I really don't think so. Uh yeah, man, this week has been cool. It's been adjusting to my new routine and stuff. Routine's so important for me. For like the last month was like the best month of my life, but also I got completely out of my like healthy routine that I had been settled into. How I lost fucking 50 pounds last year, which I didn't. I look at pictures of myself a year and a half ago, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I don't know how no one around me. I obviously we have a lower sense of self than the way other people look at us, but I don't know how no one around me was like, dude, chill with the fucking wings. I don't know. But anyways, I like developed a pretty solid routine for myself of like getting up early and going to the gym, and also I think being broke for a year really helped me eat healthy because I was like, I literally can't go drink or afford the food that I prefer eating. But this last month was just like straight grind mode in other aspects, so I fell out of it, and I'm like been back on it this week, which is nice. But it's just so important. It's so obvious, but finding a routine that works for you that you can actually stick to, I feel like is like the key to unlocking this way better, more productive, healthier, happier version of ourselves. And I've talked about this before, um, but like, especially as a creative person, at least I felt like I got into being an artist because I was like, I want to do whatever I want, whenever I want. But then once you're in the door, you realize that these people that you look up to or aspire to all have a super regimented lifestyle. And it's like, oh, that's right. That creative part of me that resists like being compacted by some routine or being like held down and wanting to be spontaneous and free has to realize that there's also like the that doesn't lend itself to being the most productive creatively or even the most creative. Like I feel like having even in the days in the studio where I'm like feel like I'm at a loss and like nothing that I'm making is what I want it to be, it's still about like getting in it around the same time every day and knowing that no matter what, I was in there today and I tried to access whatever the fuck gets fed to me on those good days. And sometimes it's a little more difficult than others, but it's just about like, it works here. I get up early in the morning, I do this, then I'm in the studio, then I do this, and like the next day and the next day. And something I've learned more and more, again, something I've talked about before, is just we push away the idea of having a routine when it's not when we're not living the life we want to be living. When you're living, like when you're following your dreams or when you're actually able to completely pursue your passion, routine is sick because it's like, I love all of these things. I like being healthy. I like being happy. I like making music, and I can now fit it into a perfectly scheduled thing rather than your schedule being going to a place you hate, working for someone you don't respect, for a company that you don't admire. You know, when you have the luxury or you have taken the path of doing something you love, settling into a routine that works for you is much easier because it's easier to embrace. Like, this is what I'm doing with my day because this is what I do. You know, I don't know. That's at least how I've been looking at it. It's like, yeah, I'm just me. I'm an artist. This is who I am, dude. That's also something that I had a great conversation with someone recently about like always being yourself. I deep down I love who I am. Like I really truly believe that when I in a quiet moment when I look at myself in the mirror or when I'm by myself and I think about who I am as a person, I'm like, word. Pretty good. Not the worst. But like being around new people, because I have the brain, this is going to sound pretentious. My bad. Because I have the brain of an artist, my head is spinning at a million miles an hour at all times. And like, I think a lot of my panic attacks come from trying to like crunch that into a version that's palatable for other people meeting me for the first time. And the more and more I let go of that, the less and less anxious I am. And I've realized that completely being yourself all the time is the key to unlocking a lifetime of happiness. Think about it this way. If a relationship, whether it be business, personal, romantic, isn't meant for you, and you are yourself from the first second that it's even possible that this relationship is forming, and it doesn't work out because you are yourself, that's saving you pain, time, money down the road after days, months, years of not being yourself. And like, rather than it taking that long, when your personality will inevitably start to shine through because you can't be someone else forever. It's impossible to play a different role other than who you really are all the time. When your personality starts to finally shine through, pieces of you that don't work with pieces of the other person slip through the cracks, and then it just starts to fray and get worse and worse and worse. And I feel like that's happened to me in multiple aspects of life. Friendship's not so much. I feel like making a friend when you're younger is like, you're next to me, let's be friends. We have 3 things in common, at least for guys. It's definitely more difficult for women. But romantically, that's absolutely what has happened to me, where I want to be this polished, certain version of myself, and that fits what this person wants me to be. And I can keep it up for so long, but eventually I'm going to crack. And I'm going to be myself, and things that I've let go for a certain amount of time because I want to be this person that this other person needs me to be, things that I've let go finally start crashing down on me and on the other person. And you just begin resenting the other person because it's somehow in your head their fault that you weren't being yourself when you could have just been yourself from the beginning. And it would have solved, or it would have prevented all of these problems. So that's something that I've been trying to do more and more and more, is just be myself all the time. And I am a big believer that the most unique, the most significant, important thing that you bring to the table in any situation is your personality. You're the only one that's like you. Obviously, people, you might have similar interests, you might act similarly to other people, but the whole package of who you are, you're the only one. So that's always the most important, most valuable thing you can bring to any relationship. Again, whether it be professional, romantic, a friendly relationship. So I'm just trying to like always remind myself of just to be me. Like I was around someone, or I've been around different people throughout my years. I'm pursuing a career in the music industry. And even if you don't gel with someone, it's still refreshing when right off the bat, you can tell they're not pretending at all. They're just being them. And it just like opened my eyes to like, oh yeah, I am that. I am weird. I do think a little different than most people. And that's what's beautiful about me. So why wouldn't I just completely embrace that and be like that as much as possible? And again, I just think it saves you from like the pain and time and fucking suffering, honestly, of having to go through long stretches of time in some fucking fugazi relationship with someone where, again, all kinds of relationships, not speaking specifically on certain things, having to go through some facade of like life. And I really think that's where a lot of my anxiety and panic was coming from, was like, I constantly was like, I don't want to seem weird to this person or that person or anyone. So I'm going to just try to fucking keep it in. And that energy of like my personality just bouncing in my head and thinking like, oh, that fucking chair looks weird. Why don't you make a joke about it or make a comment about it? And then be like, no, can't say anything, can't say anything, can't say anything. And just keeping it in just like would explode into panic attacks or anxiety attacks or depersonalization. For someone with depersonalization, every time I try to say it in a sentence, I go it's back. It lasted for me. I enjoyed the piano aspect last week. Something that's been yeah. So always be yourself. Got to be yourself. Something. All right. Something interesting to me. It's actually not interesting at all. I hate that I'm even bringing it up or that I care or have to care. But it just came to my mind because me playing the piano for a second. Because last week I was like, this podcast is going sick. I really like the way this episode is. And then I did all the content that I needed to do for the week. And then I scheduled it all so that all week I didn't have to worry about it at all. I knew that I'm playing the game and fucking, I got a solid, like, up, not the best, but like higher quality content for every day of the week so far this week. And then like, but my engagement was way worse than it was the week previous when I kind of did the same thing. But the week previous, I didn't schedule it all ahead of time. And I've been wondering if that's a thing. And I have a couple homies that like do really well with this shit. I genuinely hate that I brought this up. I don't even really care to talk about it. But it's been frustrating because it's like, I don't want to be doing this anyway, but I have to. But then when you're like, all right, I'm going to do it the right way and professionally and schedule it all out and look at the times that my followers are most active and like what time is the prime time to post on these platforms on these days of the week and when fucking this happens. And it's like I feel like maybe I'm just making this up in my head that like because I scheduled it, it was like way lower engagement than it would have been if I just posted it straight from like typing it all out then, Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I guess I have to. I'm talking to no one. Whatever. This is for me to vent anyway, right? Be yourself. I'm being myself. That's what I'm doing. I'm alone right now, and I'm judging myself for being myself. See, it's a constant struggle of trying to always be me. Also, I am on my second cup of coffee, and I had been only drinking one for a long time, and now I'm on two. So there's that. What else I see? I got my notes up here. I made notes this week, so I didn't lose my place and just start doing stuff like this, even though it's nice. It's probably nicer than me being like, oh, what else I got to say? I listened to Kanye's new album twice because I feel like, I mean, not that that's enough, but I feel like one listen is not, that's not possible to be like, I have an opinion on this now. What an interesting guy, huh? I mean, whatever your opinion is about him, interesting certainly fits the bill. Like, I personally have always been inspired by him. Really early on, I've told this story a million times, but one of the first albums, because I bought several that day, that I ever bought with my own money was College Dropout. And like from then on, because I was such a huge Jay-Z guy growing up, that like I bought that because my brother explained to me that fucking Kanye was, produced all these songs for Jay-Z and now he signed to Rockefeller, all this shit, right? That's the story that most people know by now. So that was one of the first albums I ever bought with my own money. And ever since, I've loved Kanye. And like, I totally get that anyone who has a problem with him 100% deserves to have an issue with things he's said or done. I get that. But I don't think it's fair. But I also feel like we've separated the art from the artist for people who have done and said way worse things, that it's tough for me to just blanketly be like, everything he does now is garbage because he's nuts, especially as an artist who also feels fucking crazy a lot of the time and has mental issues like I do. I identify somewhat with not with what he says, but somewhat with like the struggles of like living in a brain like that. There's levels to it, obviously. I don't have bipolar disorder, which is great. I'm very happy about that. But I'm just saying, I won't mention names. You got to separate things that people have done if you want to judge the art for what the art is itself. But I also, on the flip side though, I also feel like the story of the artist plays into so much of what the art is once it's created, that to completely separate it is also to do a disservice to what the art really is. And I think, especially in today's generation, people are more fans of the artist than they are the art. So I have trouble really navigating what to think about his newer stuff, given some of the things he's done and said. I think some of it is overblown. I think some of it is, he's a little bit, he's who he is. And then some of it is like, you just can't say that. You just can't do that. With that said, I listened to the album twice, and I mean, he's Kanye. Like, it's not. It can only be so bad. You get what I'm saying? Like, that song he did a couple years ago that was like trolling people, the Poop Diddy Scoop song. That's the worst, lowest it can get. And and he basically did that on purpose. So in like some weird way, if you're a Kanye fan, it's like, oh, he's a genius for trolling people that successfully. But as far as the album goes, I like it. I mean, what I like about it as compared to like maybe Drake's last album is I feel like Drake leaned too far into like new school shit that just doesn't fit who he is, in my opinion. And there's one or two songs on Vultures that has like similar flows to like the new school shit that I just personally don't get. And it sucks because it's inevitable. Like, it's impossible not to sound like an old man saying that. I feel like I am as receptive to new things as anyone, especially when it comes to music. I just don't. I think objectively, some of it's just not good. But I also leave room for the possibility that I just don't get it, and plenty of people really enjoy it. But my point being, I enjoyed, compared to Drake's album, that Kanye didn't really lean so far into that just to be like, I'm down with the new shit. It was more kind of just of the sonic wave that he's been on the last few projects, which I personally enjoyed. A lot of people didn't. I like a lot of it. It's not his best album by no means. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is one of the 10 greatest, maybe albums ever, but certainly top 5 rap albums ever, in my opinion. It's certainly no My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but there's some songs down in there that are undeniably like, this is a dope song. This is a dope Kanye song that I fucked with. So take it as, take my opinion with a grain of salt. I certainly never want this to become like a commentary on like that shit. I think a lot of that shit is super corny and people say things just to get headlines and stuff. Just giving my honest opinion on it. I, again, really do understand people's issues with him, but I also think that, again, I just think we've let so much other shit go for people who have done way worse, more abhorrent, terrible things that I don't know. I'm biased. I've always been a fan, and it kind of hurts. It kind of sucks. Like, I don't want that to be true. Maybe I'm like purposely denying some of his wrongdoings to still be able to enjoy his art guilt-free. But this brings up opens up another can of fucking worms. Like, everything is hypocrisy. Every person, we're all hypocritical. To say it how Kanye would say it, we're all hypocritical. I'm just the first to admit it. I hate myself. I mean, the age-old things of like, how can we take, I don't know. It's just the things we all, and everyone has the right to care about what they choose to care about, I guess. But some of the things we choose to care about or complain about or fucking get upset about versus other things we don't, it's like, what are we doing, So am I just being willfully ignorant because I've always been a fan of his and I view him as a great influence in my musical journey? Maybe, but maybe I just like the music. I don't know. Maybe I think of it too deeply. But I think I really think that this generation has this generation, meaning like kids today, and my generation, and I guess always, but it seems to have trended more and more and more in this direction, that with every form of entertainment and art, people become fans of the artist and basically don't even give a fuck about the actual art itself, which as an artist is a bummer. I know that it's important because, like I said before, it's impossible to completely separate who made it from what it got made. And it also, when it's a perfect like symbiosis between the two, that's like the best thing ever. If it's an artist who has an interesting story, is an admirable person, or even not, just a whatever their vibe, whatever the story of them is, and then they make this incredible thing, it just makes both things better. But I feel like with the age of social media and people getting notoriety for things that have nothing to do with the actual art they create, people, especially younger people, become fans of the person before they even check the fucking art out, which is something that, like, I think maybe is one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to like make social media content, or I have been in the past, or I don't know. I wonder if I were to start doing really well on social media, does it really translate to gaining real fans? Would people really dive into the music the way I would wish that they would? I don't know. That's also part of being an artist, and it shouldn't be about that at all. And it's not. Like, when I'm actually making music, I'm not thinking about that. I'm doing everything I can not to think about that, because I think it only comes at the detriment to what I would be creating. But like, if I had my way and someone discovered who I was from some fucking video on social media, and they really liked it to the point where they wanted to check the music out, like, I would want them to actually sit down and listen and enjoy it like they would an artist that they just, that they didn't discover that way. And I wonder if a lot of these people that are super successful on social media, like, even if they make the greatest art, if that's not exactly what they're posting on social media that got them some sort of notoriety or some level of a following, I wonder if it's falling on deaf ears, or like if it's getting wasted because the lane that got them eyeballs on social media has nothing, is just enough different from what they actually want to create and make, that like it's like wasted. I don't know. These are things I think about. These are things I think about but have never said out loud, because it's not like I wrote down like I want to talk about this today. That just came out. But I think maybe that's part of the reason why I've been hesitant about it, because I'm like, I don't want to be that. Like, this is, I don't know, I feel like I am a late bloomer in the sense of like I've had to, in my own head, recreate who I want to be as a musician or an artist like 6,000 times. And part of it's cool because it's the things I've tried still haven't escaped. So like maybe when I finally get to a point where like I'm at least around where I want to be sound wise, that like it's really an amalgamation of like all the different things I've tried, and now it's honed into like who I really want to be as an artist. And then there's other times where I'm like, maybe it's none of those things. Maybe it's not as serious as we make it at all. I think, or like maybe it's just I love being an artist so much. I love making music so much that I think of it this way, but no one really fucking does. Unless you're like, there are people who are super diehard music fans that like love that part of it and view it that way. But then there are also people where it's like you're in the background of like fucking shopping malls, or like, you're one of 70 songs on shuffle on like a long road trip and the person's barely paying attention. And you have to like be able to separate that from the actual craft itself and the process of doing it because you love it. And like you have to separate that even from the idea of releasing something. Like once you release it, it's not yours anymore, kinda. It like becomes a new thing. It sounds completely different as this mix and mastered waveform on your computer compared to when it's out in the world and it's now someone else's to form an opinion on. It's like it's now it's shared. It's not just yours anymore. And then sometimes it becomes theirs completely, and then like it falls back into being yours in a new way. Someone cut that up and make a reel or a TikTok out of it. That's way too much, but I feel like I made some salient points there. Oh, nice. I've been yapping away. Almost halfway done, which is crazy. Second cup of coffee, you see me? That's rude. Wrong pipe. I used my air fryer today for the first time in forever. Anyone else feel like it has a weird smell? Like, it almost feels like I'm doing it wrong every time, but like by this time I realize that it's just a thing. But there's definitely a smell to it that I don't like, and it makes me feel weird about what comes out of it, even though it's not like it smells or tastes like that. I can't be the only one that smelled that smell, the air fryer smell. But I made bacon, and like bacon smells like bacon. You ever smell it? But like the air fryer smell was still in the air. And also I live in a small apartment. Dude, I made the mistake of making salmon. Maybe never. I might never cook salmon again. I fucking love it. So easy to make. Good for you. All that shit. My apartment might never not smell like fish again. Fucking sucks. Fish, air fryers, bacon. My just everything is just salmon, bacon, air fryer now. Forever. You can't smell it. Right now I can smell salmon from 4 days ago. And I've cleaned, I've scrubbed, I've sprayed, I've done all this shit you're supposed to do, and it just stinks like fucking fish here. No, it's not that bad, but like I might never do it again. Chicken and ground turkey forever, I suppose. I get scared that like my equipment's gonna get fucked with from like smoke or the smell, but then you go to like I don't know. It's probably not. It's probably fine. It still works. You can hear that, can't you? I really debated on maybe just watching the Super Bowl alone. See it now. I fucked up because like I've done that every time. We used to do this with Under Umbrellas, and I used to do this Mental Health Mondays, where like there'd be an event coming up, and we'd have the podcast before it, and then talk about it, and then the event would happen. And then by the time there was another podcast, it was already old news and like not fun to talk about. So I probably should be filming this like Sunday night or Monday morning or something. But anyway, the Super Bowl is happening this week, and I made my pick of the Chiefs, thinking like that's who's gonna win. But I think I'm fully rooting for the Niners now, which I already said, but I think it's just hitting home more and more. But anyway, I don't have to talk about this again. But I might just watch it alone. Like, I don't know. I've never done it, and I almost feel like as much as I love a Super Bowl party, which it's my favorite thing actually. Like now talking about it out loud, it's the best. But I almost feel like it would be cool to like just luxuriate in it alone, make some again in the air fryer, make a couple chicken wings, have an adult beverage or two, and just like be able to hear everything that's getting said and not get completely shithoused and like not know what the fuck happened in the game. Because honestly, pretty much every Super Bowl since I was younger, since I started going to Super Bowl parties and drinking, like it just becomes like the background a lot of times. And like I'm trying my best to pay attention, but sometimes if I get this way at baseball games a lot. I make a joke about it with Casey. Like I love baseball so much, but when we go to the game, I'm like a puppy. I can't help but like get as fucked up as possible just because I'm having so much fun. Not because I'm like, let's get fucked up. It's just like, I want another beer. This is so fun. But I feel like the same way with Super Bowl parties where like by the end of the game, I'm like fucking cockeyed and I don't really know what happened. Or like, I don't know. What I'm saying is it might be nice to just watch the game. I'm going to experiment and try it this year. And then like hope that I don't have horrific FOMO of like other people having fun with other people watching it together as a communal group. But yeah, man. Oh, I see. It's like last week I went to it too much as a crutch, but then this week I feel like I haven't done it enough. It's nice. I think I made a beat with those chords once. Ding ding. Din 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 din. I don't know, dude. The amount of I have to go back. I go back and forth in my head all the time between whether I maybe am an egomaniac or I'm just. It's nice to see, like, I don't know. Let me get through what I'm trying to say, and then I'll explain why maybe I'm an egomaniac. I'll listen to like an interview with Miles Davis, who is regarded as one of the great jazz musicians of all time, obviously. For proof of that is you don't listen to jazz and you know who that is. I listen to jazz. He's one of my favorites. Anyways, I'll listen to like an interview with Miles Davis and like he's so fucking cool and like the way he acts is just cool. He's just the epitome of being cool all the time. But he'll say something and I'll be like, me too. Like he'll like there's this video of him right now going around that's like, the interviewer's like, "Would you be a musician if no one ever heard your music?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's got that fucking cool raspy voice. Of course, he's the fucking coolest." And he's like, "Yeah, because it's always in my head anyway. Like it's just always in me. I have to get it out. And I'll watch that and be like, "Me too, Miles. Me too. I have beats in my head that I made 4 years ago that just are sitting on my computer, will never get finished or used because they're not good enough. But they're still like, I'll just be walking through the park. I don't know. There's not necessarily through the park. Like I'll just be walking or not walking, standing, sitting, just when I woke up today. And it just, the beat that I made 3 years ago that won't ever get used is just playing in my head. And this is where the part of me that can't tell if I'm an egomaniac or people who are artists just really are all wired in a similar way. Because when I hear someone like Miles Davis say that, I'm like, I am a genius too. Maybe I'm just a fucking crazy person who can't get a song out of their head. Like, who is it? Mozart or Bach or one of those dudes that they like were or maybe like their assistant. I don't know. We watched Amadeus in AP Music Theory. Yeah, I said AP Music Theory in high school, and I think it's part of that movie. Regardless, one of those fucking composer people. I'm saying this as if I don't love that kind of. I love that kind of music. I sound so ignorant. One of those dudes. One of those composers had the tune of a song that they like couldn't write or that they did write in their head, like, and it drove them mad, like actually crazy, like they couldn't get it out of their head. And sometimes it's when you have anxiety and especially depersonalization, you become a bit of a hypochondriac when it comes to certain things, especially like mental health shit. I'll sometimes get scared that like that might happen to me. But my point being, am I crazy? I don't mean to keep saying the name of the pod. Am I crazy for being like, I'm a genius too, because I think like that, and like, people just don't get it yet, man, and they will eventually? Or am I like, is that real? Or am I a psychotic, like, egomaniac who thinks I'm larger than life and like I'm more important than things? It's probably a little bit of both. But I feel like to be great or to aspire to great things, you have to be a little nuts. Back to the Kanye thing. People make this argument and some people don't like it. Like some people find it to be like giving him a pass, or giving people who do bad things, who do great things as well, a pass. But that age-old quote of like, the only people who can change the world are the ones who think are crazy enough to think that they can. Like, there is absolutely truth to that. So sometimes, again, in a quiet moment when I'm by myself pondering, I do a lot of pondering. When you live alone, Christ almighty, I never am not pondering. Love a good ponder. Remember the Ponderosa buffet? That was a solid restaurant. When I'm alone pondering, I will think to myself, like, maybe I am one of them. I don't know. Maybe I am a genius, or maybe I'm nuts. But that's the part of being an artist that to me like drives me nuts sometimes, where I judge myself for believing in myself enough to think that I am going to be one of the greats, right? And then the other part of me is like, humble yourself, dude. What the fuck are you talking about? And then there's something in the middle that's like, maybe I should, like, why am I even thinking that way? Just make the art. But I don't know. Like, is it wrong? Does it take away from the art itself if you're recognizing that it's something special? Like, is it okay to, in the middle of making something, be like, this is different? Or is it better to just make it to make it? And if it's different and the world receives it that way, then it is. And if it's not, then it doesn't matter, because it's you who made it and you made it for yourself anyway. I don't know. These are things that like fucking pull me in different directions all the time. And I wonder if other people with creative mind, I know other people with creative minds feel similarly, but like, I just don't know which is the truth. Sometimes I get caught up on wanting to know an absolute to be an absolute, but knowing that really nothing is absolute. Like everything is gray. Everything is gray. There's a little bit of each color in everything, and nothing is black and white. My ultimate belief is that nothing is black and white. It's all kind of some mishmash of a little bit of everything. And I think that's why, like, I also get scatterbrained creatively because I want to make a little bit of everything, and I want a little piece of this and a little piece of that, a little piece of this. And sometimes it doesn't work. And then when it does work, it's like, this is cool, this is unique, this is undeniably good. But like, there's plenty of other times where I try to fit a square peg into a round hole in a song filled with triangles, and it just doesn't shape correctly. But it's fun. The process is fun. The last January, like I said, was like everything hit correctly. Everything I was making was great. Actually, everything I've made in this apartment up until very, very recently, I felt is really good. January was particularly great. And then February, I don't know. It's just weird. You go through ebbs and flows where things happen more easily. And then sometimes it just seems like nothing's working. And I'm kind of in one of those phases right now. And I'm trying my best to just embrace that it's part of it, but also know that like writer's block is kind of made up. Like you always have access to whatever you're pulling your creativity from at all times. And I think that writer's block, or, you know, just to use that as the common term that most people would refer to something that I'm describing as, it really comes from like self-judgment or self-doubt, or like something not being completely centered in like just making something, and like trying too hard, honestly. And like when you let your guard down and you try a little less hard, it just starts to more easily flow. I don't know. It's just all a fucking crazy. Like I said, I get pulled in all these different directions, and it's because it's like a double-edged sword. Because again, going back to like loving who I am deep down, I like that I like a ton of different types of shit. Like I love sports, but I love the arts. And I was an athlete growing up, but I loved being in the arts. And like, I don't know, I love fucking classical music, but I also love like super hardcore shit sometimes. And I enjoy that, but I think because my brain is able to enjoy a lot of different kinds of shit, it also opens me up to like too much influence sometimes on my own thoughts and decisions and actions and motions in life and in my creative pursuit, that it becomes a little overwhelming. Rather than like, if I only like this one thing, then like all my resources and influence would come from one direction. Sorry, my mom just tried calling, and I hope that didn't fuck up the video. That would suck. Like if all of my shit came from one place, maybe it would be easier to just hone in on this one thing, but I don't find that fun. Like I do feel like I'm a believer in within reason. Like I don't think you need to try meth or heroin, but like sometimes like there are plenty of experiences I have with drugs or substances that I regret, kinda. But part of me is also like, I'm glad I can say that I've tried. Like I want to know. I'm like eternally curious all the time. And so like I want to know what everything's like. I want to know what the dregs of your mind are like. And I've been there, brother. But I also want to know like what the highest high is like. And so I enjoy all these different things from different corners of the world and little pieces of everything. And it makes me who I am. And I think that's cool because I think it's unique. Like I wouldn't want to be boring and want my life to be boring in like one shade, one color. But also it opens me up to influence and anxiety and panic and fear from all those things too. Because if it's not enough like this thing, and it's too much like this thing, then I got to pull it back over here. But now I maybe lost the essence of what I was going for in the first place. So this is why I need to go to therapy again. Because like I feel like the shit I'm saying, it's like half very, oh, interesting. And then half like, why are you bothering thinking about this shit? on a daily basis. I don't know. It's just how my brain works. Again, I'm grateful, but it does spin you out a little bit sometimes. Sip real quick. Another thing I noticed is that I wasn't working out for a couple weeks. And previously, I used to have very sweaty armpits. But then, like, there were, I don't know, maybe my body just, maybe our bodies just go through phases. And that's okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to sweat all the time. No, but on the real, I feel like I was not a super sweaty guy for a while. And I think it's because I was so consistent with working out that I can't take myself seriously while doing this. Sorry. I think it's because I was so consistent working out that like I worked the sweat out. But now I notice that on the days I don't work out, dude, it just pours out of me. Like, I don't know what the fuck it is. I've tried different kinds of deodorant and antiperspirant and shit. But especially, like, for example, right now, my armpits are soaking wet because I had that second cup of coffee. And that's what made me think of it, because I took a sip of this said second cup. But them fucking things are a little moist right now. I'm like self-conscious. Like, oh, you can kind of see it, huh? Well, that's embarrassing. Whatever. It's too late now. There's a very good chance my mom interrupted the video portion of the podcast anyway, so. Yeah. I mean, I went through all my notes, so I guess I got to take more next time. But I just wonder, I just think sometimes I feel lost a bit, not even in a bad way. Just, I notice that when I have a little bit more direction, whether it be from a person or like an individual like thing that I start to adapt and believe, I don't know, that things just are easier. And I have a very hard time, it's very easy for me to not have a direction. And in those moments or periods of time, I just feel so lost and like I'll never find my way again. So right now I have a direction, and I have more people than I have had previously to go to and be like, what should I do now? Because when you're alone and you don't know, it's so like, how the fuck am I going to figure this out? And how did anyone ever figure this out? And obviously there are plenty of successful people in whatever way you wish to define that word. There are people we all admire that have somehow figured whatever we're trying to figure out. They've done it in one way or another. But the more and more I realize, it's just like it. I don't know. I can't compare myself to someone who has what I am going for. Especially, again, I'm speaking more now, almost in the past tense, because I feel like it's so clear. Like, oh, I'm gonna get everything I've ever wanted in my life. So this is great. It's all worked out, and it's gonna be fine. I'm like convincing myself and actually believing it for the first time in a while that like that's true. I'm going to get everything I want. And anyone who's listening to this, watching this, anyone who discovers this podcast years from now and you're like, oh wow, look at that, he said it. You can do it too. I've just realized like I don't need to compare myself to people who are in positions that I aspire to be or can't wait to be in. And in the sense that like I sometimes have judged myself like they figured it out and I can't. Maybe I'm not as deserving. And I've just realized more and more two things. One, that none of them did it alone. As much as it seems like some like specific characters especially are like the lone wolf, it seems. None of them did it alone. And if they did, then okay. In that way, they're more special than you. It's an ego. It goes back to my very fragile ego. I guess I said that, and I've said that before. I actually think that I always keep my ego in check, almost to a detriment, but we have to come up with a new word for ego, because it's only associated with being like conceited and thinking you're the shit, and that's not it. It's just that my sense of self is so inflated in ways that like make me vulnerable to other people's judgment or my own judgment, because I think it matters more than it actually does. So when I look at these people, I have to remember we all have our own path. They didn't do it on their own either. And if they did, okay, cool, sick, I need help. I have to admit that like there are things that I need guidance on. And recently I've had access to people who can give me guidance on these things. And then now I remember where we're going. Direction. It has helped me move in the correct direction, in the correct way, with the faith that if I continue on this certain process and let things fall into the places they're supposed to, on the way of me doing everything I can and being and putting myself into more and more advantageous positions, it's all going to work out great for me in the end. And it's possible in any walk of life, in any industry, in any pursuit. It's 100% possible. You know, I'm really grateful. I've said it last week, and I am so grateful though. I just, it's not always like this. And I'm trying to, again, remain humble and aware that I'll go through another time period, who knows when, where it seems hard and impossible again. It just is natural. It's just, I'm a human. We're all human. It's just, that's the breaks, man. But right now, I'm not in one of those phases, and it's pretty nice. And it's night and day difference between my work ethic, my overall opinion on life and things around me, my perspective, just everything is better when you're where you feel you're supposed to be. And I think it's taught me that it's way easier than it seems when you're not in the place that you feel you're supposed to be to get in the place you're supposed to be. You just have to like, I don't know, the whole like this too shall pass thing. Like, it's so fucking true. It's as cheesy as it is. Like, when you're in one of those really dark or tough periods, it's natural for there to be significant periods of time during that period of time where you're like, this is me forever. Like, to put it bluntly, and like, no disrespect if anyone listens or watches this who might have their own opinions on the situation, because it wasn't like a one-sided thing by any means. I'm not a perfect person but I know what I bring to the table, and I know what I have to offer, and I know at the end of the day I'm a good man and a good person. I make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I'll make them again. It sucks. I try to grow from them. I think the overwhelming majority of my personality is a loving, caring person. I had to preface that because what I'm going to say, I guess, I don't know. I was just going to say that, like, I was in a relationship where there was a period of time where I had just accepted, like, I'm not happy in this, but it's too late, and this is just gonna be my life. And I don't even say that to like put all the blame on the other person in the relationship, but I just think, I don't know, man, like, life gets so overwhelming and shitty at times that like it seems easier or more convenient or more comfortable to stay in the fucking shit of it than do the hard thing that you know is the right thing, even if it's really fucking hard and hurts not just you but other people. You just gotta do it. It's fucking hard, but every time you do it, you prove to yourself again and again, because it's not like that's the thing. It's a thing with me. It's like, it's a theme in my life that I'll let a situation get way worse than it should before doing the hard thing and having the confrontation I need to, because I don't want to step on people's toes and I don't want to hurt feelings and shit. And it comes at the detriment of not just my own mental health and my own like life, but also the other person's, because you're letting them live in this fairy tale also that sucks for them too. Even if they can't admit it, it's not great. When something's not good, it's just not good. When something's not working out, it's just not working out. And like, the quote unquote like good guy in me is like, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings worse than I do, or when things aren't good anyway. I just think this is what it is, rather than being like, this isn't good for them too. Maybe they don't see it right now, but they also need to not be a part of this thing anymore. We need to just do our own thing. So I feel like for the last year or two, or however long, I felt like I almost had to like double down and be like, this is just me now. This is just my life. I feel like a shell of myself. I can't be the person I want to be. I feel unmotivated and uninspired because I'm unhappy. See a lot of uns in there. And this is just me now. I'll just fucking drive to the pawn shop and sell this thing because, I don't make enough money to do the things I need to do to support this current situation. And, maybe I need to start thinking about another path. And then finally, when push came to shove and the difficult decision got made, all of those things disappeared, and like my life just trended upwards. And I'm grateful, as hard as that experience was for not just me but anyone involved. I'm grateful to have gone through that and really felt like I learned and unlocked something in myself that's like, never let it get this bad for you or the other person ever again, because again, that wasn't my first time doing that. And I just feel like you owe it to the other person, but most importantly, and I know this might sound selfish, but most importantly, you owe it to yourself to recognize when you're not in the place you should be, and take the little bit of control you have in life to be like, nah, no more. This is fucked. I need to get my shit together and do me and fucking live my life the way I feel I deserve to live it. And sometimes we don't always know. Sometimes it's the wrong choice. That's fine. It's about that gut thing. It's like, I knew for way longer that like that wasn't gonna work out. It just was not good, and it still was just too hard for me to go through that confrontation. It's not just romantic relationships. Some of my closest friendships, some of my family relationships, I just haven't been able to go that far and have that fucking difficult, awkward conversation. So rather than deal with an hour or a day or a week of awkwardness because of the tension of the actual confrontation, I'm like, I'll just deal with it for months on my own, or years on my own in my own head. I'll be fine. It's literally impossible. That's not how it works. I'm just fucking super grateful that I am not in one of those places right now. I just feel like, we're good. We're going to be all right. It's just this fucking unlocking of a confidence I haven't had since really early on. Since I have a confidence level right now that I haven't had since I keep butchering how I want to say this because it makes sense in my head. I have, right? What, man? I have the confidence level right now that I did when I was too young and stupid to not be that confident. Does that make sense? Like right now I feel so confident that everything I want is right there and I'm going to have it, that the only time I felt this way before was when I was an idiot forever thinking that, just because I was young and naive and dumb, like I can do anything I want. And it's just funny to me that like when you're that young, you don't know enough to even be scared of what if it doesn't work out. So that's helpful in the Kickstarter of like pushing yourself off the ledge and being like, if I fall, I fall. I don't know. But then as the journey goes on, it gets increasingly difficult and you realize like, fuck, that cliff was mad high up there and it's going to be super difficult to climb back up. And then now I'm just in one of those places where I'm like, yeah, but after I fell off the cliff, I learned how to survive down here, and now I'm like stronger and better, and everything has kind of worked out just how it's supposed to. So like I'm gonna be fine, and not just fine, like I'm gonna get everything that my naive idiot fucking 20-year-old self thought I actually could achieve. It's crazy. I'm just fucking happy, dude. Can a brother be happy, dude? Well, we've come to that time again where the ASMR takes over. Just kidding. That's kind of weird. Less music this time. I guess I didn't know how to segue it in this time. And I think I was a little self-conscious about the fact that I played the same couple chords last time. And also I get distracted. Like I just kind of forgot I was doing the podcast there for a second. What do we do? What do we do, Frank? Do you want to play a song? I don't know, not really. Let's try it. Fuck it. I've been way too long. It's been way too long that I felt that way that time. I've been way too long. Yeah, it's been way too long since I felt that way that time. Yeah, it's been way too long since I felt that. Yeah, it's been way too long since I felt that way that time. Yeah, it's been way too long since I felt. I don't know. Thank you for listening. See you next time on the show. See you.